Hey everybody, welcome into Mining Stock Daily. Trevor Hall here. We've got a corporate update for you this Tuesday, July 11th. Familiar company, but actually a new face and a new voice representing the company today. Happy to welcome in Meridian Mining CEO, Mr. Adrian McArthur. Adrian, welcome in to the podcast. Good to meet you.
Thanks, Trevor. Pleasure to be here.
A couple of news items that we got to get your corporate editorial comments on, but let's start out with today's drill results that you published into the market. These coming from the Cabacal Northwest Extension, seeing really good, nice grades here, Adrian. 12.6 meters of 15.5 grams per ton gold equivalent coming from hole 264, a shallow hole that starts at 43 meters depth here. So talk to us about not only these results, but really what you continue to see out of that Northwest Extension. What is the game plan here for that extension?
Sure. Thanks, Trevor. No, it's a tremendous intersection. It's one of the best we've had from the Northwest Extension. It follows along a trend that we'd developed from our early phase of drilling in the Northwest Extension. The Northwest Extension is an important area. It's one of the areas where we can see potential for the high-grade starter pit to form part of the early feed for a future Cabacal operation. We had a number of good results previously to the south of this trend. With this new intersection, it extends this trend for at least 175 metres, and it remains open to the northwest, where we see potential in more sparsely drilled areas that are yet to be tagged. As you mentioned, it's quite shallow, 40 metres. Some of the other very high grade intersections we'd had were deeper down. So we think this position is gradually plunging up, getting closer to the surface. There's a good, strong golden soil anomaly in this area. So we hope with some further drill holes we'll have good, continued pleasant surprises. It's one of a number of holes that we're doing with Cabacal at the moment. We've got 3 rigs operating on site. The objective of the drilling program at the moment is to work towards a resource and PEA update towards the end of the year in the fourth quarter. With 3 rigs turning, we anticipate a range of interesting results from ongoing results from the Northwest Extension, from the zones in the southern part of the mine. Another interesting point on the news release you might have seen, we found a copper gossan about 350 metres to the south of a very high-grade copper hole. So that's a new find for us as well, something that we'll be shortly following up with further drilling and trenching.
I do want to follow up on that, the copper gossan, because myself, I'm not geologically technical savvy, so you got to explain things to me like I'm in high school geology class here. Adrian, tell me what a gossan is and why this is important.
Right. So we're dealing with a subtropical area here where we're working in Brazil. Gets a little bit of rain over the summer, quite warm and humid. So any rock that once had sulphide in it, like a chalcopyrite, a copper sulphide rock, in this superficial environment where you've got weathering processes, that rock will turn into what we call a gossan. So a gossan is effectively the weathered equivalent of a sulphide-rich rock mass. When you drill underneath these bodies, you expect to encounter the fresh sulphide, but you can see from the photo in the press release there a brown, rusty-looking rock. That's effectively the weathered version of the fresh copper sulphides at depth. We use a portable XRF gun that gives us an instant field reading on the sample that was running up to 2% copper. What's interesting about this area is it's located some distance from where we were expecting to find these sorts of rocks. The mineralization dips off very gently off to the southwest. It daylights to the northeast. So on the northeast edge of the pit is where we would have expected to see these features, but this has popped up somewhat offset from that superficial position. So it seems to represent another position on the edge of the deposit. It could be potentially related to the feeder zone that we intersected 350 metres to the northwest in hole CD 240. It could be some type of copper-bearing structure. But it's right on the edge of the resource and an area that remains open to the south. We've got a big gap between Cabacal and the areas we've worked on about a kilometre to the southeast. So really encouraging to see signs of mineralisation at the surface, and we'll shortly be following that up with trenching and further drilling.
Okay, so early stage here in this area of the project. I mean, you literally just found it on surface, so
Precisely. And
okay.
what's encouraging is it shows that the Cabacal system remains open. We're looking for opportunities to continue to grow and extend the resource and to find other concentrations of VMS deposits along strike. So a characteristic of these deposits that they typically form mound-like accumulations. So you'll get strong mineralisation in one area, then it might wane a little bit, then it might come in again strongly further along strike. So our objective is to gradually build up these positions and look for extensions, satellite deposits that will gradually build into the overall inventory and grow our resource base.
Okay. I think, Adrian, one of the challenges with Cabacal is really, and at least from where I stand as a shareholder of the company as well, is that is the narrative of where drilling activity is taking place. And I'm hoping maybe you can help me kind of refocus this or kind of narrow down and clear things up, because there's a number of areas within Cabacal that there's always drill results coming out of. We've talked about the Cabacal Northwest Extension. We've talked about the Eastern Copper Zone just in the short few minutes that you and I have been on. But there's a lot more going on. Obviously, there's the main mine area. There's the Central Copper Zone. And if you move southeast towards Santa Helena, which will be coming down the road, we'll talk about that shortly, there's even more drilling activity. So with all these areas, I think the challenge, at least for me, and if it's just me, I can't be the only one, is really trying to stay focused with exactly where drilling is taking place.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping maybe in this I guess this is more of a question than a statement, although maybe it's more a statement. If you can kind of tell me more about the direction of drilling activity and how it's going to be focused in the coming months as you approach that updated resource.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there were a couple of, or a number of very specific recommendations that came out of the PEA that we published, getting back towards the PDAC conference, and that set the framework, I suppose, for how our specialists viewed we should progress the next phase of work in leading up to the next resource update. As you mentioned, it's a challenge sometimes. We've got a very extensive mineral system, different zones, satellite targets, and there's always a balance in how you address multiple competing priorities. But there were some very clear recommendations that came out of the PEA. Amongst them were to continue to drill on a 50 by 50 metre grid. So ultimately, we need to find where the edge of the deposit is to optimise the pit. So we have one rig that's working to do the more broadly spaced drilling to define what's going on at the edges of the deposit, and still encouraging to see these strong signals of mineralisation coming up at the moment. The other rigs are doing more infill work within the resource sphere, so other recommendations included closing the spacing down in some key areas to 25 by 25 metres. One thing when you've got particularly high-grade mineralisation like we have here, with the infill drilling, it'll give a much better representation of spatially where this mineralisation sits. So when you've got holes 50 metres apart, 100 metres apart, there's always a little bit of a few ways you can maybe interpret things. So this phase of closing it down will give a lot more confidence and certainty to the early production scenarios. So currently with 3 rigs on Cabacal, one's doing the more working more around the edges, looking for expansion opportunities, doing a little bit of geotechnical work to confirm the optimal angle of the pit walls for the next update. And the other rigs are working within the sphere to get better definition of these high-grade trends. And this is quite critical when you've got some very high-grade structures such as we do here. That infill drilling will really pin down exactly where they are and get much better representation into the next updated block model. Having said that, we're cognizant of the exploration opportunity that the district presents. So one of the challenges in this sort of scenario, we've got Cabacal, which is absorbing a certain workload. We've purposefully mobilised another rig, a hand portable rig that allows us to put the rig into hillier terrain. The first target for this fourth rig will be the Santa Helena target. Santa Helena is a very interesting target. It's located about 9-10 kilometres to the southeast of Cabacal. It was developed historically as an underground zinc mine, but it contains a lot of very shallow gold in soil anomalies, more of these gossans. Again, some of these gold and soil anomalies haven't yet been drilled because the past operation was focused on underground development. So we see potential to add more open pit resources by initiating this program. Our geophysical surveys over the area show a number of targets that are located a little bit to the north of the Santa Helena deposit. Could be a range of sources for these sorts of targets, but if we imagine that they're further massive sulphide, stringer sulphide systems, that has the potential to add new discoveries and resource growth in another exciting area. So we're always constantly working at a range of levels. We've got a reconnaissance team as well in place on the project. They do scout mapping, geochemical work, geophysical work, and they're really laying the groundwork for ultimately drilling campaigns that will follow in months and years ahead to get very well-defined targets for new discoveries.
Okay, so Santa Helena does have a historic resource on it, and so this first phase of drilling at Santa Helena will be really focused on proving that historic data out. Sounds like
it's a combination of initial proof of concept, proving up that validating that historical data, but also the first phase of doing more exploratory work for these satellite geophysical anomalies that were never part of the historical resource. So sometimes it just takes one good drill hole and you suddenly find a new body of sulphide, a new sulphide mound that hadn't been hit with previous drilling. So it's quite Cabacal, the build is quite, it's been structurally modified. So there's enormous potential for a lot of surprises. Even when we drilled Cabacal initially, we weren't expecting to hit the quantity of mineralisation we've encountered in the Northwest Extension. We believe that kind of success can be replicated in targets like Santa Helena. So it's not just the historical resource, it's the potential to find new things that weren't envisaged or encountered by earlier phases of work. So this is just the first step in a long process, but we're very excited. And these shallow gold zones, shallow soil anomalies, they were never considered in the Santa Helena resource. So if we get more holes like the one we've released today and find that those types of grades and widths are there to be found, then that'll really change the game and the opportunity for us.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of drilling results coming down the pipeline. The work continues. You're very, very busy at the Cabacal mine project there, Adrian. We do have to address a little bit of I guess you could call it a board of directors shakeup that happened not too long ago. I received a number of inquiries about this. Gilbert Clark is now just a director. He's not executive chairman of the company anymore. I mean, I do think I need to ask you about this, and if you can share with us kind of what, why the change in the makeup of the board. Gilbert is still part of the company as a director, just not in the role he was previously. People listening to this podcast will know he's been a long-time guest for a couple of years. So what can you share with us regarding this move? And, I guess what caused it?
Yeah, sure. Look, I've also received quite a few questions and queries myself, and look, Gilbert's done a tremendous job in positioning the company where it is now. I worked with him closely for many years, and continue to have his support as now a director. He remains very passionate about the project and the success of the project and the company and the people. Look, there's only a limited amount I can say about the circumstances. In the board environment, occasionally there can be differences of opinion, differences of outlook and strategy. Really, I can't say more, unfortunately, than what we've disclosed, which is that we thank the outgoing board members for their support. We thank Gilbert for his contribution as executive chairman and his ongoing support now as a director. All the directors are fully behind the company and its future. And look, in terms of the direction that we've launched for taking the company on the pathway it is at the moment, all the goals and plans that we had for execution this year remain on course. Look, I'd like to say more, but that's about as much as I can say. It's a lot of the details are covered by confidentiality, but the board is fully supportive of the team and the work program, and focused on growing the company.
Does the change at the board level change the strategy of the company at all?
No, we'd set our course always in the next this year to work towards a PEA update and the development of towards the development of Cabacal. All the work programs that we had proposed and planned with the capital raising that we've had in place, they remain on course and are following that pathway. We've got a very the company's got a very large land bank. We've got lots of licenses in addition to the Cabacal belt. We've got 2 other greenstone belts in Mato Grosso alone. We've also got a very large portfolio in Rondonia. We'll be looking at ways to make sure we optimise that portfolio as well. But look, our fundamental focus at the moment is delivering on what we promised we'd told that we would deliver on for Cabacal for the market, and all those plans remain in place.
All right. That's Adrian McArthur, CEO of Meridian Mining. Adrian, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Trevor. Be in touch.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Meridian Mining trades on the TSX with MNO and on the OTCQX with MRRDF.